Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody tuning in today. Supatease here with my first impressions on 8.1 Restoration Shaman. And oh boy, is this a doozy here. There's a lot of changes for Resto Shaman. Riptide has basically been ripped out of the game. You're going to be hard casting a lot of your spells now. Thankfully, there are some new honor talents that you can make a lot of cheeky and cool plays with, that being Ancestral Gift and Cleansing Waters. Cleansing Waters allows your Healing Rain and your Chain Heal critical strike heals to dispel magic, and currently it is dispelling both damage over time effects as well as crowd control. I'm not sure if this is intended or going to stay for very long, but as of this date, December 12th, it does dispel crowd control as well as damage over time effects. So against this team that has Hammer of Justice, Repentance, and Fear, I'm looking to use Healing Rain on myself preemptively before that crowd control chain starts to dispel myself out of it. And now you can also honor talent into an Aura Mastery effect for your Spirit Walker's Grace, and then pair that up with a normal talent that reduces its cooldown by a minute. So you can get an Aura Mastery every minute, and I highly suggest that with the amount of casting that you're going to have to be doing. You're going to want to be taking your Surge Azerite traits and respecking them into Turn the Tide. This will allow you to cast faster with Healing Wave. At least I was enjoying that. A lot of other Shamans are also running Chain Heal builds if you're interested in trying that. Against this team, I expected it to be a lot of single targets, so I went Turn the Tide and focused more on Healing Wave. So right at the start of the game, I want to get combat as soon as possible, so I charge in and drop an Earthbind on the Warlock. I try to save my Earth Grabs for the Rogue. In this matchup, I think I was running the Spirit Wolf talent because I was afraid they would actually attack me, and they do later on in the match. So I Ghost Wolf and I run towards my lock. I want to reposition and kind of post up on his portal. Affliction Warlocks are back. Inevitable Demise trait has been changed a lot, so they can burst around roughly every 1 minute. Their sustain damage is better and their tankiness is better. So this composition, Warrior, Warlock, Resto Shaman, I would definitely recommend it. It was a lot of fun to play here with my buddies Maldiva and Bajira. So now we're posted up at the pillar. We've got our portal set down, and our Warrior is basically bait out in the middle of the map, but they try and punish that by going for a smoke bomb play. So I drop an Earthen. Now you'll see this at the top of the screen. Earthen Shield is not applied as a buff to the Warrior right now, which means it's not working. The smoke bomb denied it, but as the smoke bomb fades, he then gains the Earthen Wall Totem effect. I opt to use Trinket on blind. It's usually a fair exchange, otherwise you're sitting through a long crowd control chain. And then I use my Aura Mastery to power through some big healing waves towards the end of that to avoid any sort of Shadow Step kick shenanigans, as now I'm expecting the Rogue to want to switch to me. Here's that Hammer of Justice Repentance chain, so I'm telling my Warlock I'm going to ground, as there was more than enough time for me to break the chain myself. I see the Rogue moving in, so I load him up with a Flame Shock, so I can counter pressure him away with any instant cast Lava Burst that I should get. In the meantime, my Warrior and Warlock are destroying the Warlock, and we get Blessing of Sacrifice overlapped with Unending Resolve, which opens up the Warlock immensely for a kill later on. The Paladin now currently has Avenging Wrath or Avenging Crusader active, and you want to avoid the fight when the Holy Paladin has this ability up, as he can power heal his entire team quite easily. So I tell my Warrior to retreat, pull back to the pillar, and start to line of sight. Then at this point, I try to get some cast of heals while Warrior line of sights me. I need to try and do my best to top my team off behind the pillar. He goes for a cheeky Cataclysm. Now, me trinketing that blind, and if we look at my Omnibar, he has Vendetta currently. So it is likely that this Rogue wants to do something cheeky. I never want to position myself in the middle of the map. One of our main objectives to win this game is to run their Paladin out of mana. I now see their team running in on top of me. This has got me a bit concerned, so I drop a Capacitor Totem as they move in, which baits the Rogue to Cloak of Shadows. Now I see Rupture applied to myself. This immediately tells me that the Rogue wants to attack, so I opt to stay in Ghost Wolf, kind of read the situation out, see if he goes for the Vendetta off the back of this. And you can use Unleash while in Ghost Wolf, so I used that right afterward, and I barely survive, and I opt to use my Spirit Link Totem, but he has still not used that Vendetta. Fortunately, I have Earthen Wall, which is more than enough should I need it, but using Earthen Wall here this early was more of me reacting to the new patch and my uncertainty with the amount of damage that this enemy team could do. You do not want to use Earthen Wall Totem as I have right here. Now my only line of defense is Astral Shift, and that may not be enough. So my team is trying to counter pressure them away as they stood in our face for most of that time, and I'm repositioning side to side on the box to avoid the Warlock. So the Warlock's on the left, I move to the right side of the box. If he moves to the right, I move to the left, and I try to make sure that I'm never in his line of sight. If I get kidney shot into a Chaos Bolt, is good night. Now he's got a kidney shot, he's got a vendetta. I need to at least be in Ghost Wolf, and this is why I ran the talent for Ghost Wolf. You can see it stacking up at the top of your screen, a 3 and then a 4, and that gives you some extra damage reduction. The Rogue overextends and gets a Storm Bolt, so I go for some Lava Burst damage on him. He used Cloak of Shadows earlier, you'll remember, so I tried desperately to punish his overextension. I should have used Tremor preemptively on this Fear. I still need to be ready for Kidney Shot. This global cooldown should have been Ghost Wolf, as I am in a Kidney Shot and line of sight of the Warlock with no Spirit Link Totem. So I tell my team to use Rallying Cry, basically whatever they've got left to keep me going at this moment, and I'll use Hellstone, Astral Shift, Gate to safety, and activate Aura Mastery to avoid Shadow Step Kick and to avoid any spell locks from the Warlock. And I can use the Spirit Walker's Grace movement to line of sight them to the opposing side of the map, as it's likely they would still want to train me. I'm the most vulnerable in this position with no personal defensives and no way to get out of a kidney shot. But as they have to overextend and chase me on the gateway, they are in line of sight of my Warlock, taking huge damage. So using that gateway there was super effective for me to be able to survive through the Vendetta, and it also opened it up so that my teammate, the Warlock in particular, could do a lot of damage. Now we're in an awkward position. The Rogue has split damage on me, and the Warlock is soloing my Warrior. So I start to tell my Warrior potentially that he needs to come back. I can use Earthen Wall Totem on both of us if he's next to me, but if he's far away like this and I use Earthen Totem on myself, the Rogue can switch and he will not be inside of its defense. Fortunately, they are doing a good job of interrupting Chaos Bolt. So long as this Warlock does not get a Chaos Bolt on my Warrior, he will not die. I can simply give him a Riptide and he will survive. I tell my Warrior to leap back to the pillar, and I opt to Trinket Blind. Now, you could argue whether or not that Trinket on Blind was necessary, and this is why you don't always want to Trinket it right away. The Rogue did not have a kidney shot. It's still not up for 6 more seconds. The Warrior had heroically backed defensively. That Trinket may have not been needed. Here in this position, I decide to get aggressive as there was no spell lock, and I look for a Hex on the Paladin, which actually gets us a Divine Shield. You can see I'm only looking for hexes when the enemy team pushes on top of me. I'm not running after their Paladin trying to get hexes, only doing it when he comes to me. Then I want to reposition. I'm not on the side of the map with our gateway. I'm not on the side of the map with our portal. And continuing to play on that side where their gateway is would be a mistake. So I need to reposition back at the port, start telling my Warrior to be careful as he's still kind of low and I'm worried about him, but the Warlock is next to me. I see him in my line of sight, so I'm not entirely freaking out. At this point, my Warlock wants to set up for a kill, so I drop a Cap Totem to try and help him out and stun the Rogue, but the Rogue manages to dodge it. Now he's going after my overextended Warrior, so I switch Earth Shield immediately to him, but the Warlock was still attacking the Warlock. The Destruction Warlock was still attacking the Affliction Warlock, so I've got to power heal him back. But I want Earth Shield on the target the Rogue is hitting, as it's likely to be the one that's stunned. I'm getting ready for Vendetta. I'm getting ready for Smoke Bomb, potentially. There was no Grounding Totem here for this Hammer of Justice. I dropped an Earthen Wall Totem, though, preemptively, so I tell my Warlock, you don't need to move, you don't need to worry, stay out there. But he opts to portal back so that he can spell lock Repentance. He needs to be in line of sight as he is playing Grimoire of Sacrifice. He doesn't have that Fellhunter pet to interrupt for him, so he has to portal back, land the interrupt on the Paladin. Then I try to ground the Fear. I believe that it would have been better in this position to use Tremor instead of grounding. That way I could save grounding for a different crowd control or a Fear after if he potentially kills my Tremor. Now they've stacked up. They're behind the pillar. This is just in time for us to start bandsawing them down with that Arms Warrior Cleave. So we land a triple Fear, and my Arms Warrior is looking to build as much pressure as possible. But Infernals have landed. Infernals are a very scary cooldown, that giant fiery red rock. And in this position, I don't have a lot of cooldowns to work with. So I'm telling my team, Infernals are here. We need to be ready. My Warlock looks for Shadow Fury to try and stun the entire team and all the Infernals. I drop Tremor preemptively for this Fear cast, as it's unlikely to be on my Warlock. He is dying. I then see Repentance being casted, and my Warlock communicates that he will interrupt it, so we do not overlap. It's very important against this composition that you're not overlapping interrupts, because there's a lot of spells. You need to interrupt Repentance, you need to interrupt Chaos Bolt, and you need to worry about Fear. That's 3. So if you overlap once on a cast, multiple of those are going to be sneaking through, and you can easily lose as a result. Now we've managed to manage our interrupts correctly and avoid them with good positioning to the point where the Paladin is almost out of mana. Here I use Grounding Totem to protect my cast bar with Ascendance so that I can get a heal. And you can see that I grounded the spell lock of the Warlock, avoiding the interrupt and connecting a critical heal to start stabilizing my team. We're moving closer to dampening. It will become difficult to heal. Then he drops a Smoke Bomb. So when he's in a Smoke Bomb, it would be advantageous here to use Healing Tide, but I don't want to overlap it entirely with my Ascendants. Those are both big 3-minute AoE healing cooldowns, and you do want to spread them out. If you use them too much all at once, then in a few seconds from now, if they get our entire team rotted down, it's going to be difficult to heal through it. So I decided it would be better to save the healing tide, use it a couple seconds later, and then start to recover. I move in line of sight to Windshear Chaos Bolt and deny the burst. At this point, I'm not too worried about a Repentance as the Paladin is so dangerously low, and he used Divine Shield earlier to avoid a Hex. So he's under desperation at this point to survive. Double Mortal Coil is likely that the Warlock wants to start setting up something, some cheeky shenanigans. My Warrior gets Kidney Shot, and he is in battle stance with Chaos Bolt being casted. So this is a dangerous situation, but he Spell Reflects and uses Dive of the Sword. You can now say that the Spirit Link was overlapped, so that was a bit of a panicked situation as I saw him stunned in battle. And I saw an aggressive unending resolve to avoid being interrupted. Here I raced the Paladin, casting Repentance with Hex. I timed it out to be faster than his as I started the cast earlier than him. With that Hex secured, like I said, I'm only hexing the Paladin when he's on top of me. I'm not chasing him. But with these hexes, we've gotten a lot of pressure, forced them back, gotten Divine Shield. So when you have the opportunity, you definitely want to look for hexes. It's so much so as forced the Rogue to use Blind defensively, which means that we are almost certainly going to win because I can use my Gladiator's Medallion during Vendetta, which is available in 48 more seconds. They're running low on mana. They're dangerously pressured. It's basically curtains for them. And with how many cooldowns I have left to trade, I'm looking to maybe play a little more aggressive if I really need to. I drop Earth Elemental for some extra damage. We secure a Fear onto the Paladin, and my Warrior's just hunting the Warlock down basically until he can find a kill, which he inevitably does. So against these compositions, Holy Paladin, Destruction Warlock, you want to be managing your interrupts and your grounding totems and your stuns. You want to be not overlapping them as much as possible. This way you can stop the plethora of important spells that will be casted at you. And if you communicate properly, then you'll be able to deal with it. You didn't see me really showcase the new Healing Rain Honor talent, but it's definitely phenomenal if you can preemptively get a Healing Rain down to dispel any sort of damage over time effects. And through my playing of Resto Shaman here for my first time in 8.1, it felt like a solid healer, but not really over the top anymore, especially since Pack Spirit got nerfed. I would definitely think that it's still near the top, but not as good as Mistweavers or Holy Paladins and potentially Holy Priests. And I would argue that Resto Druid is probably better than Resto Shaman right now, as hard as that may be to believe. I'm gonna have to play it out a bit. Obviously these are just my first impressions for Restoration Shaman, and I was playing a composition that I've never played, really trying different things out. It's a completely new expansion basically in my opinion with this patch, so definitely come and check it out if you're a Shaman, and I hope that this guide helped you out. Please consider subscribing to the stream and consider hitting that notification bell so that you can know when my videos go live, as I am uploading guides every single day. So thank you very much for tuning in, and I will see you on the next one.